Okay. And, oh, there's a little, this. So let's move that back further. Just out of the way, okay. You can use that sketchbook, Mom. I got that for you.
Oh, I don't want to take your book.
No, it's...
You sure?
Oh, where are we going? Come on. Let's go. Come on. Oh, okay. Just got to close this app here. Start that app again. Oh, okay. There we go. Sorry about that. I had a little glitch right at the beginning, but welcome. My name is Michael Markowsky, and I'm going to be showing you how to do some drawing today. I'm coming to you live from my childhood home here in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, in my parents' kitchen. This is where I spent the formative years of my life, and just behind the camera is my mom sitting at the table where I learned to draw. So this is really special for me to be here and to welcome you here into my family home. So today we're going to learn how to draw hair. We're going to learn how to draw people's hair, but you can apply this to drawing dogs or cats or bears, gorillas, or any sort of creature you imagine who may have hair as well. I think eyes are the most important part of the human face to draw because they convey so much emotion and character. But the hair is often the second most, and arguably maybe more important than eyes, because partly because they're forgotten, so a lot of people leave them to the very last minute to actually draw. But the shape of everybody's hair, the length and the color, the cut, all those things are really so unique to each person. So being able to capture a different person's haircut is really, really important. Okay, so let's get right into it. And again, I'm on the road, I'm traveling, so I've got a little bit of a different rig than I normally have, so we're gonna kind of see if we can make it all work. And today, what I thought we would do as a drawing exercise would be to try to draw, maybe I'll just hold this up while I'm here because we're gonna be looking at it from above. So this is an image by Milton Glaser, and I'll see this, maybe let's go to the overhead view here. Maybe that's a little easier for people to see. Or you know what, let's go to the split screen. Okay, that way I can see you and look at this image simultaneously. So, let's move that back here. Okay, so this image, I apologize I can't get it any bigger, but, oh, oops, sorry, let's go down here. Come on. Okay, so this image on the screen here by Milton Glaser, who was the first graphic designer to be awarded the American Medal of the Arts by Barack Obama, I think in 2009. This is one of his most famous images, this poster for Bob Dylan. He's also very famous for creating the image, the I Heart New York logo that you've probably seen on a billion t-shirts or baseball hats or posters and dorm rooms, etc. And so he designed all sorts of really beautiful images. But I thought, when I was trying to think of what famous hair paintings to use, and I did a little bit of Googling, but this is the one I kept coming back to as just a warm-up drawing for us to use. So we're going to try drawing Milton Glaser's Bob Dylan hair poster to get us going. I saw a question and this is a question my mom asked me right before we began, is what pencils do we need? And you know, it's a reoccurring question, and part of me, I feel, hopefully I haven't led anybody down the wrong path about pencils. Ultimately, you can use any pencil. You don't have to be using expensive artist's pencils. You don't need to be using 2B or 4B or any kind of pencils. HB is the most common pencil that's out there. And HB, the reason why it's so common is it works so well for so many different applications, including drawing. I've done, you know, months-long projects just using an HB pencil, so you don't have to worry if you have something else whether it's going to work. And we're learning too, so you could use a pen for this class. You could do everything we've done pretty much with a pen, except some of the blending exercises. You can use colored pencils. You could use crayons, charcoal, pastel, all sorts of different things. And that's what I love about drawing. In fact, when I'm originally, in fact, I may even have said this on the very, very first class way back in episode 1, is that you can use a stick and you can draw in the sand, and that's drawing, right? So you could use, which I've done before, if you're at a campfire, around a campfire, you could pick up a piece of burnt ash or rock or tree stub, and you can scratch and draw into paper, which I've done. I've been camping and I've been inspired and I want to draw something and no one's got anything around, and you can use, you know, I've actually used, let's say, a key, and I've drawn into paper, and then I've taken dirt and rubbed it onto the paper, and it will leave an image, right? So that's one of the amazing things about drawing, is its accessibility. Having said that, my recommendation is personally to use a 2B pencil, just because it's a little bit darker and softer and therefore easier on your wrist to draw if you have one. And if you've been watching some of these classes, I personally will use colored pencils, just because so that you at home or wherever you are, maybe you're sitting there at work doing this undercover, just so you could see the different steps in my drawings here. So you can see I'm going to start maybe with pink and then move towards a blue as I get a little bit further down the line. Okay, so I'm going to jump to this view here, and let's draw. This camera is a little crooked above me here. Just get this oriented. It just drives me crazy when something's a little bit crooked. This is all super crooked in front of me, but on the screen it looks good, so that's good. Okay, so how would we draw this picture? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give myself a little, I'm going to draw a little frame, roughly the size of this iPad. And maybe it looks like it's kind of bright, so I'm actually going to draw, maybe let's reduce the brightness of this a bit. So I'm going to draw that a little bit darker, just so you can all see it. Okay, so I've got my little frame. And then I'm also going to divide this in half. And then in half again, so that I got 4 quadrants. And maybe this one's a little bit bigger than that one. Totally fine. Don't worry about making it perfect. So then I'm going to look at this picture. And let's just say I'm just going to put this pencil roughly right down the middle here. And let's just continue this whole thing here. All right. Now you could, if you were drawing with a magazine or newspaper, you could literally draw a line on top of it to help. But this is just going to help me get into the rough area of the picture. Okay. So maybe just to help me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a oval shape, and it's going to be on a little bit crooked, right? So if you imagine this was on a diagonal, because Bob Dylan is sort of looking not down, but his face is definitely on an angle, right? So I'm doing some of this here, just to kind of so I can figure out where this is going to be. Okay. Now, let's say this, roughly, almost pretty much halfway in the middle here is where his nose is. And actually his nose looks like it's pretty much straight up and down, right? And then I'm going to make this fairly simple. All right, and then, so I'm giving him some lips. All right, so I'm making it very straight lines. I'm not worried about getting it all smooth or anything yet. All right, so this seems to kind of cross. You know, if this is a pencil, this is this green pencil. And then I'm going to come up on this side here. Okay. Forehead. And then I see this is the ear. So I've got this ear around here. Now it's kind of abstracted, so we're not going to see too much of it. Okay. So now remember, this is a warm-up drawing. So we're just using this as inspiration to kind of get started. So we can have a lot of fun and we can take some liberties with this. So I'm not too worried about getting each of these swirls exactly right. But let's say right around this ear, there's this kind of pink shape. Oh, I kind of went a little bit wide. That's okay. In fact, well, you know what? I'm just going to kind of get inspired by this drawing. So I'm going to do a couple swirls. Let's say there's another one kind of coming up here. Oh, can you see that? I'm just going to draw it darker so that you can see. Oh, I also should outline where the hairline is going to be. So the hairline, you know, if this is halfway between this pencil, right, and the top, then this hairline is kind of a little bit below. Doesn't have to be perfect. And let's say we got this swirl coming up. And you could imagine these are like Twizzlers or some kind of, you know, snake-like candy or something, right? So I'm just going to draw, this is kind of an E shape in here. All right. So have a little bit of a fun while you're doing this. Don't worry about getting it all right. I think part of this style, it's almost like a doodle, right? It's you can fill it in and put in whatever kind of swirls you want. You can see that I'm kind of jumping around in my picture. Because I want to get the general gist of everything before I start going into the details. All right, I got another one coming up here. This is his neck. I'm not sure what's... My pencils are covering some stuff, so that gives me a good excuse for not getting it perfect, right? Okay. So I think that's for my beginning part of my drawing. That's good. I'm just going to move these pencils out of the way. I'm going to pick up my blue here to start getting a little bit more detail. So I'm going to go in here and soften some of these angles. Kind of got this bump on his nose. rounding out his lips and the chin. Okay. So here's this ear, and some of this was covered by those pencils, so I didn't see exactly what shape they have. If you're wondering, if you have kids at home and you're wondering what that sound is, it's not your own children. I wonder, it looked like there might have been a little glitch there temporarily with the YouTube, so if you're, well, give it another few seconds to see if it stops. But it looks like it came back online. So well, if it's too hard, maybe let's simplify things a little bit. Like once you just basically get a few of these little swirls in, then just sort of like in fact, for the rest of this drawing, I'm going to ignore the original and I'm going to focus on my drawing. If you want to try to get all of this correct, I mean, it's very easy. You could just Google Bob Dylan poster, and I think this is the first thing that's going to come up, but Milton Glaser is Glasser is his last name, and you could find the exact one, but I'm going to stop looking at the original and just have a little bit of fun making some swirls in here. So and then maybe I'll compare the originals and see how close I got, because these swirls aren't connected to anything. It's not as if you get 3 swirls here, well, it's not going to look like the original poster, right? It's both meant to convey, I mean, I don't know the entire history behind this poster, but if I was to take a stab at trying to kind of interpret it, I think it's both trying to, it's a poster from the mid-1960s, so it's got this psychedelic quality. I think it's also emphasizing kind of the creative nature of Bob Dylan, and also kind of his hair, which is kind of famously messy hair, right? If you think about, he was, one of the first kind of celebrities, I guess you could say, or people in the public eye to kind of have unruly hair. Even the Beatles, I mean, Bob Dylan precedes the Beatles, but even the Beatles, were clean cut and had their mop tops. And then you have Bob Dylan, who, his persona was this guy who, was a folk musician, who he liked to think of himself as this guy coming from the prairies and, riding rail cars and being like a hobo and all that, this, Woody Guthrie who was his hero kind of persona. And I think, I don't know, maybe somebody's written about it, but I would imagine part of his original appeal was of this kind of renegade, and whether people thought of it or not, the hair was a big part of it. Okay, well, we see, now I'm looking at these, comparing them back and forth, and you could see in the original this area was black and there was more space up there, whereas I've kind of gone right to the edges. I'm going to just take a little bit of a time to do the text, and I'll show you how I would do that. I'm just going to draw this rectangle. Why am I drawing a rectangle there? Well, this, I'm going to, let's say, to write Dylan, we got D-Y-L-A-N, right? So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 letters. So I'm going to divide this into 5 boxes. D-Y-L-A-N. And then I'm just going to use this font. It's my daughter tooting in the background. So if you wanted, once you've got this basic thing drawn out, you could color it all in and make it a really pretty picture. If you could take out the text on the bottom. If you look online, you can see, maybe I'm just going to move this over here, my own drawing. Not sure which one you'd prefer to look at, the original or mine. As I said, the original is not too hard to find, but yeah, I get that, this crooked book. Maybe I'll move this a little bit closer. What was I just about to say there? Oh, if you look online for this poster, you'll also see like hundreds and hundreds of examples of people who've taken this original image and then played with it, put their own face in there and replaced it with their last name or first name, or they've put, you know, I don't know, who would be a celebrity, Marilyn Monroe, my wife says, or you could put your children or your husband or grandfather, you know, or yeah, Marilyn Monroe. It doesn't have to be a male figure, it could be a female figure. You could put a cat's profile in there or a dog or whatever, right? So the idea is this profile, which again you could color in dark pretty quickly, and then add whatever colors you want into the hair. Okay. So, maybe I'll give it just a second here for people to catch up. Where am I? I should be over here. So, so the next few drawings we're going to do is I'm going to go on Google Images, and we're going to find just some straight on portraits of people, and we're going to try to draw the general shape of their hair very quickly, because that's kind of the first step when we're drawing somebody's hair, is not to get into the weeds or the individual hairs, but to try to draw the shape of the hair, and trying to almost think of it as a silhouette. And we're going to draw, we're not going to draw eyes and noses and all that kind of stuff. We're just going to focus on the hair shape. Okay. So, maybe I'll move this out of the way. Oops, that wants to be here, doesn't it? For those people who are still drawing that, and I will pull up. So, I'll just show you what I'm looking at here. Where should I go? Let's go up here. So anybody wanting to do the text at the bottom, how I did that. Whose hair should we look at? How about we'll start with this fellow here. Okay. So, okay. I'm going to go back down to this view. I'm going to go to another page. In fact, I'm going to keep this nice and big, but I'm going to, let's say, actually I'm going to divide this page. We'll do 4 drawings here that take, let's say, like 3 minutes each or so. So we're not gonna focus on getting all the details here. We just want to kind of play around with hair shapes. So in fact, let's start out, again, maybe we'll make this just a little bit darker. You don't even have to draw a line if you don't want to, or you could draw it very lightly, just drawing it darker for people to see. So I'm actually going to draw in some oval shapes, and I'm going to want to make sure I leave some space on the sides for the actual hair, right? Okay. No. Yeah, it looks like it might have frozen a few times. So hopefully it's frozen a few times, the YouTube stream, so I'm just going to see. I'm still here. We're still drawing. Okay. So let's say I want to try to draw this fellow's hair. Oops. Just want to get down so we can see the top. So let's start just quickly dividing the face up into quarters, right? So, this would be where our eyes are. This halfway down would be the nose. Here's the mouth. And then I taught you kind of halfway between the eye line and the top of the head is your hairline. Now, depending on the way that people are looking at the camera, so again, if okay, so if here's these ears are right here, right? So the actual top of his head is somewhere in here, inside of this hair area, right? So if this is the actual top of his head, then his hair is kind of coming up and over here. So if I was sketching this person, the first thing I would do is identify where this hair is, right? And then I want to find where the beginning of just a few of the hairs go, right? So this hair, I'm kind of, let's say this one comes out to here, this one comes up here. I got one here, but it's maybe going in the, or actually it looks like we have a part here. I didn't even see that originally. So if we have a part here, we might have hair kind of coming around and around, and then out. So I just want to get some of these down. Now this looks a little bit crazy, right? It looks a little bit weird, like we've got electricity coming out of the head. But I'm going to show you how to take this drawing to the next level shortly. But this is the first step, is to be able just to follow like 4 or 5 of these hairs. And maybe I've made this a little bit bigger than his hair here, so his hair is actually going to be a little bit wilder than that. All right, so but once I start kind of filling this in, it's going to start looking a little bit more normal. Okay, so that's good for kind of one sketch to begin. Now let's find, I'm going to sneeze here. Excuse me. Let's see, here's another haircut. So I'm just gonna, while you're working on your drawing here, I'm gonna see if I can find, let's keep scrolling here. Oh, that's a drawing. That would have made a good one to draw, but let's see. So many funny faces. Just choose one, Michael. Choose one. Let's take this woman's hair. Okay. So. Okay. So let's start this again here. I'm going to draw this face into this space. I'm divide it in quarters. So this is where her eyes would be, nose and mouth, and her ears. Right? We don't see her ears in the picture, but I always think even if we don't see them, it's helpful just to kind of plot them there so we know where in relationship they would be, because it also gives us clues to the rest of the face, right? So again, the hairline would be somewhere up here, but the way this photograph is taken, I think her hairline's a little bit higher up. Okay, so she also has a part, right? So if her hair, this is the middle of her face, then this part kind of goes up here, right? And then from there, we can follow, let's say we follow this outside hair as it goes all the way down here. All right, so it kind of comes up and bends and comes around here. All right, and then let's follow this hair. So this one kind of comes up and then around, and then we can even kind of follow it. Well, it kind of looks like it ends right in here, and then she's got more hair kind of coming in from behind. Same thing with this one here. And then I'm just going to draw this lightly. Maybe it's not quite so voluminous. Thank you. So we got this hair. And I always I like to emphasize the part, even though I don't quite see it here. Again, just because it looks that way in the photograph doesn't mean you want to replicate exactly what the photograph shows us. I find just this can help a little bit, emphasizing where that part is. All right, and then again, let's just follow some of these hairs down. So we got a bunch going this way, and then a bunch kind of coming up, a bunch kind of coming around. So right now the stream is working really well, but just as a reminder, I'm still here drawing away. If your screen freezes momentarily, that's on my end over here. So okay. So what's important about doing what we're doing right now is capturing, again, it doesn't have to be every single strand, but when we see kind of changes in the direction, so that we don't draw all of the hairs like a robot, kind of like a Playmobil or Lego hair that's just sort of plopped on there and looks robotic. We're looking for these kind of waves and shapes, the things that are kind of adding unique qualities to that hair, because it's going to tell us about whether it's a messy haircut or, like Bob Dylan's, or this woman's hair. Like almost every hair is in the exact right place. So we want to try to capture that in our drawing. Okay, so let's move on to another one here. Should we draw... What's somebody with a slightly different haircut? Right, here's Jeff Bezos of Amazon. He's got a bald head, so that's relatively simple. Somebody who's got... There's a dog. I'm going to draw the dog. Maybe this woman with her hair kind of pulled back into... So how about let's try doing that. So let's divide this in half. Nose, hairline, mouth, and ears. Okay, so that's where we're going to start. So I actually really like drawing this kind of this kind of a hairstyle because it's relatively straightforward. So, and this would apply to any time you have kind of hair. Even it looks like, you know, with this fellow, the hair is kind of, we see the roots of the hairs, I guess where I'm going. Whereas this woman's hair, except in this area, all of the roots of where the hair actually goes into the head has been hidden, right? Whereas we see this fellow, we have the hair right along the front, his hair is kind of being pulled back, so we see that. This woman, we see all of the roots of her hair there, right? So if her hairline, again, is going to be a little bit higher than this mark, because of the way she's looking into the camera, and her hair kind of comes up and down, and then it kind of moves to the side at the last second there, right? And she's got just a little bit of kind of sideburns, all right? And then same sort of thing, all right? And then her hair is not too, let's say this is the shape of her head, her hair kind of is fairly close to her head. We don't want to do it right on her scalp, because there is all of these layers of hair that are laying on top of one another, right? So it's not as if her skull is right underneath this top layer of hair. There's still hair on top of hair on top of hair. Right, so then we can kind of just start drawing lines following her hair as it kind of curves up. And except for maybe a few lines on the top, every line is going to be a bit of an arc. All right, so we have her hair coming here, all going up, and then it starts to go straight again, and then it starts to curve again. And then it kind of straightens up again. All right, so just noticing those details is just like when we're drawing people's eyelids and trying to get kind of specific here. All right, and then, you know, we do have a few extra stray hairs. And so just capturing, we don't have to draw all of it, but just putting a few of them in there, I think, is really helpful. Okay. Just going to darken this a bit more. Oh, too dark. Okay. And then what would be one more hairstyle? See, somebody with like some big hair here. So, I mean, we could do this for hours drawing all sorts of just the basic shapes of hair, and it's the same sort of thing for beards, facial hair. Here's Zach Galifianakis here, right? So you can see his hair is curly and also kind of wild, right? So this actor, you know, I'm sort of getting pressed on time, so even though he's not straight facing the camera, I think we can do a pretty good job. Here we get the general gist of it. Right, and he's got some facial hair, so we can do that as well. So here's an example where, let's say, if we look at the length of his nose, his hairline, it's going to freeze again for a second. What's that?
My YouTube is flooding.
Yeah, mine's not working.
It's Wi-Fi. Oh, Wi-Fi networks. SlingStudio does not appear to be connected to the internet.
Is something wrong with the internet?
Well, just because I have the app that he's using on my phone, so it told me it wasn't connected to the internet. But there's lots of things in there.
So I'm still just kind of having fun here, drawing these kind of curls, and
It's working now.
it's working now. I'm curious, when it starts working again, does it just jump right to the live feed? Like, so did it
Yeah.
skip over a whole bunch? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so, and I can't quite see some of these details, so I get to use my imagination to kind of fill some stuff in here. Okay. And then he's got his facial hair, so it's the same sort of thing. I'm just going to kind of quickly lay out. So this would be where the lips are going to be.
Where's Snoopy? Is Snoopy over there?
Right, and it looks a little bit silly to do this, but again, his chin, it doesn't come right down here. It's in this mass of hair. So I'm kind of coming up and around. Right, so then I want to look at the hair to see, like, these kind of hairs are kind of growing. Maybe I should have drawn this bigger, used full pages for this. Might have been a little easier for people trying to draw when there's so much detail. You like it when it's small like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, so I want to try to convey some of the messiness. Okay. So I think this, you know, once we go in, you know, then he's got all this kind of stubble and stuff. These are details we can fill in later, but you kind of get the basic gist. Like, you could see that even though I haven't drawn any of his facial features, I haven't drawn his eyes, his nose, his ears, or anything, his lips, already this starts to look like Zach Galifianakis, right? He's got this messy hair and this big beard, right? So you can see how important it is, especially with people with a little bit wilder hair and facial hair, is that you can do really just the hair and you've already got a likeness, right? So, you know, and again, even those eyebrows he's got these kind of pretty big eyebrows like I have, right? So we start drawing some of those eyebrows in here. Okay. So I am going to move on to our final drawing of the day. And let's see, I'll leave that there for people while I get this next thing set up. So, whose hair do I want to draw? Maybe I'll pull this down while you can see some images that I'm considering. So I really don't want to focus on drawing faces today, just because I don't want you to get too focused on going down that direction. I want you really focusing on hair. So here would be a nice image to use for hair. Literally a woman's photo from behind, so all we see is her hair. That we might do that one. Here's another one, right, with this long hair. Again, another photo, big long hair. And this one from the front. I liked this just because we could see some of the roots. But I think, which one should we do? How about, I think maybe we'll try this one. And we'll just kind of crop it in so we can get nice and big. Okay, so I'm going to go to a new page in my sketchbook here. And the camera that I have is actually duct taped to a piece of pipe, and it's slowly, this is slowly twisting here, so that's why the angle is getting more and more dramatic as we go here. So eventually I'm going to be drawing on the floor in behind me. So to begin with, we're going to draw a rectangle, just like this iPad here. Okay, maybe I'll just draw a little bit darker so it shows up on the screen better. Okay, maybe it's going to turn that down so it's a little easier to see. Okay, so again, let's just divide this in half. Maybe I'll draw that again darker, and then, right, so that we can kind of see where this image is. And I'll just put some of my pencils on here. Let's see, should be darker. Okay, so and let's try, I guess we'll put these here. So this is, in a way, this is quite complicated because we don't see any of the landmarks of the face that we would normally see. So how do we even begin this? Well, we know that there's a head inside of here, right? So let's just draw a oval shape for this head to begin with. Right, and then looks like her shoulders are somewhere in here. Right, so that actually tells me that this head actually could be smaller, since if that's her shoulder, then her head wouldn't come that far down. But we don't see her head anyway, so I'm not too worried about that. Okay, so now we can start kind of playing with these nice fun swirls of hair, these masses of hair. So I'm going to start from this top point here. I'm going to swirl down. There's almost like an S shape. And maybe I'm going to move these off here just to, because one of the things that's really fun about drawing hair is that you can be a little bit wild. We're trying to get, especially at the beginning, capture some of the details. But we also want to be able to have a little bit of freedom. So now I'm going to do this, coming out. So we want some freedom to kind of play around a little bit. Right, so these hairs come up. So you don't have to draw exactly what I'm drawing here. If you want, you can kind of take your own direction out of here. So I'm just trying to find where these go. I'm starting with, I want to try to get as many of these big shapes in, just like we've always done. We're starting big and then getting more and more detail, right? So I'm trying to capture this here. Oh, and then there's one coming out over top of it. And you see, I don't mind. I'm drawing much darker than you would probably want to be drawing, because I want to be able, if I want to erase things or hide things, I can do that. Let's see, we've got another one. So I've done this one, this one. Let's see, I'm going to go out here. And let's see, we got this coming out here. So it's turning into this like octopus kind of thing here, with all these wild tentacles kind of spreading out. So again, I don't mind if I go, like if I'm overlapping these lines, because this is all stuff that at some point we're going to make a decision as to what hair is in front of the other hair. Okay, I think right now there's a number of these other little hairs, these little stragglers kind of off the top. I'm just going to leave those in place. I'm not going to draw those at this stage yet, because we're still working on a very high level drawing. So you could think of these little things as like freckles or eyelashes. So we wouldn't do those at this stage of the drawing. We'd wait till we've got a little bit more done here. Okay, so now let's start kind of adding more hairs in here. So I can go over top of lines that I'm happy with, and then I can add lines in between. So depending on how dark you've drawn these, maybe they're already quite dark. All right, so you can see I'm kind of going over many of these lines, just going darker. Okay, let's say I'm going to put some hair, and this hair I actually want to go underneath this section of hair. So you could think of it like drawing a bridge over a river. Right? So if this is the bridge or the road and this is a river, right? We want to have this river poke out on the other side of the bridge, right? If we're looking at this bridge from above. And I'm going to continue putting some more hair underneath this big part of hair, right? Because that's going to emphasize. So what we're now doing is starting to layer the hair, and that's going to help create some dimension in this drawing. All right, so let's say the same sort of thing. We had this hair come up. I'm going to kind of continue it here. Right, so once you've kind of got the main big parts in here, then you could start the layering of the hair. And you can see that I'm kind of taking some liberties. Right, so I want to find this hair that is going underneath 3 layers of hair. Let's see, I'm going to put this one underneath this set of hair too. Right, so right now, if I just leave this here, this hair appears to kind of come here, and it's like as if it's a tree branch growing out of this, but it's not. It's probably connecting all the way back up here. So I want to just provide a little bit of clues to the person looking at it that they can follow all these hairs around when they're looking at it. And that's really satisfying. That's when you're looking at artwork and you see those layers that are built up. So, and in fact, I'm hardly looking at the original image at all at this point. I'm mostly, well, yeah, I might look at it just for, you know, inspiration to kind of make sure, oh, I really want to get this kind of, this mass of hair, I want to capture that. Okay. And so as you go, like, you know, I can start, you know, now, you know, this, what I've just done here isn't even in the photograph, right? I'm just now playing. You could imagine it's like all this is very similar to how I would draw grass and stuff like that as well, right? It's that layering of grass in front of other pieces and the kind of how they twist and turn together is what is going to make it believable. So now I've got kind of this area done. I'm also, as I'm drawing here, I'm probably going I am going much harder than I would normally be doing, but so this is just for your benefit as you're watching, because I'm going to start shading this hair, which is going to add even more character to it. Now, shading is important, but we want to keep in mind this is blonde hair. Right, so we want to be careful about how much shading we put into the hair, because if we put a lot of shading in it, even if, you know, I'm drawing with a blue pencil and a pink pencil, but I can still simulate this blonde hair without using yellow or brown or any other colors like that. And that's just how much shading I put in here. Because the darker I shade this, the darker her hair is going to appear. Right? If I put a lot of shading in it, she's going to go from a blonde to a redhead to a brunette to someone with black hair. You know, if I really put in a lot of darkness. So, and that is going to really, that could really change who this drawing looks like. Right? So if you could draw a really nice drawing and capture somebody's eyes and noses and lips and all that kind of stuff, but then you darken the hair too much, and then all of a sudden it starts looking like somebody else. All right? So you can see again, this is why I love drawing hair, is you can kind of start playing a little bit. Let's see that I'm taking a bit of a detour. And your Wi-Fi is still working there? It's still coming across? Okay, that's good. Okay. So, I'm going to maybe just use another blue just because that one's dull and I just want to keep on moving. So, there's a lot of hair underneath here. I'm going to draw those as well. And we're going to shade those. You see, these are all kind of coming underneath here, and I'm trying to vary the angle and turn them around so that we see, you know, they appear to kind of go underneath other hairs. So you see how I'm kind of changing some of these angles up. So don't worry about making your drawing look just like my drawing, because it would be crazy to try to get all of these. Like I'm really just riffing, you know, I'm like a guitar player who's just starting to play a bunch of random notes here, which is, I think, is what's fun about drawing hairs. You should play. You get the basics in place, and then you start playing around here. Okay, so now I want to try to capture, all these lines I just did, I'm going to take, and I'm using the side of my pencil. And again, if I was trying to do this maybe more realistically, I would use maybe a brown or a really dark blue, really dark red to try to capture some of the dark areas. I'm not too concerned about making this look, you know, hyper realistic. I just want to kind of impart some of these lessons. So I can go quite dark on here. All right, I can really shade some of this in. And you might say, oh, well, now I'm losing all these lines I just did. I just drew. They're kind of disappearing. Well, that's kind of part of it, right? They're not all gone. You can still see some of that texture, and that's what's important to kind of make it look believable. Because just like in this photograph, like right here, it looks totally black, right? So getting a little bit darker is going to convince people that there's layer upon layer of hair. Okay, so now I want to try to, I've started doing some of this shading of the hair. Now let's say I'm going to go back up into this area here. So we've got some of this hair is darker in here, so I'm just going to darken that up. And then I'm going to choose to darken a little bit and some. See how I kind of just leave? It's like you're trying to create the illusion of randomness, right? Where some areas get really dark, some have a little bit, catching a little bit more light. All right. And then some hair starts kind of getting darker as it disappears. How are we doing for time? Okay, so I think we'll draw for another 5 minutes, and then I think there's a few images I want to show. It's going to take me a second to figure out how to show them. But I know Heidi sent a great picture of an ear last class, so I'd like to share that with everybody. If there is any photos or drawings of other artworks that you've done in the past that you'd like me to give you feedback on, you can send those through Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or whatever, but also put in the comments where that photo is so that I can try to find it. So you can see here, as I'm just slowly darkening some places, leaving some places a little bit brighter, so we have the highlights. The hair starts to kind of move up and down rather than just being flat mass. All right, so we have this hair kind of, and you can even just start following hairs again and say, okay, well, this one was really bright up here. Well, it's not always going to be like that. Maybe down here it gets a little bit darker, right? And then it's going to get brighter again, and then a line, one right next to one that's brighter is going to get darker. So it's just a matter of trying to create that illusion of depth and of randomness. And by doing this, this is pretty hard to mess up, right? Like you basically just want to, if you're drawing somebody who's got really light hair, you want to try to avoid going too dark too quickly. Right? If this was somebody with brown hair, then I would probably be covering most of the hair with just with a light amount of shading, right? I might still look for some places where there's definitely a lot more of the light hitting it, because you're going to have natural highlights on your hair depending on where the light is coming from, but otherwise most of it is going to be touched with your pencil. And where you've got any place where you've already drawn hair that's been overlapped by other hair, then remember it's going to be casting a shadow, or it's going to have a shadow cast upon it, and it's going to be a little bit darker. So it's just that attention to detail that creates a really convincing image. So I'm getting pretty close to being done here. Amy, on the computer, there's the YouTube version of this. Could you look on there and see if there's what the comments are for me? No, in the computer. Oh, you have the comments on there on your phone?
Oh yeah, I've got the comment.
Oh, okay. Either way.
Last requested for Obama drawing.
An Obama drawing.
But I'm not seeing anyone saying where the photos are.
Where was that photo? Heidi's photo, is that on Instagram?
Oh, Instagram, yeah.
Okay. So maybe I'll just wait just a couple seconds here.
I'll check your Instagram.
So I think, as you're working on, the way that I think about a drawing is at the beginning stages of a drawing, maybe I'll pull this back up here so you can see me as I talk. At the beginning stages of a drawing, you're looking more at the person or the dog or the building or the whatever it is. You're looking at them 80% of the time or more, and you're looking at your drawing 20 to 10% of the time, right? So, and I use the analogy of driving on the highway, that your drawing is the review mirror, and the road in front of you is the person you're drawing, for instance. And if you're driving down the highway and you're spending most of the time looking at your drawing or looking in your review mirror, then that's pretty dangerous, right? So the more you're looking in the rearview mirror, the more you're going to start swerving all over, right? And the same sort of thing, the more you're looking at your drawing when you initially begin a drawing, then the more likely your drawing is just going to start going off in its own direction. And it's going to have nothing to do with the person sitting right in front of you or the magazine you're copying from or whatever. So you really want to be focused on, in this instance, looking at this image on the iPad. That's where I want most of my attention going. Then as the drawing develops, as you get going further and further and further, there comes a point where things flip, where you start looking at your drawing more and more because you've kind of got most of the important information in your sketch, and then you're only looking back at the original just for a little bit of inspiration or just to kind of check things and make sure you're in the right area. But otherwise, you know, there comes a point where I would even suggest you turn off the iPad or your phone and you just start focusing on the finished drawing that you have. Because then at a certain point it becomes too restrictive. Then you start becoming like, this isn't quite right. You know, it's like at some point the drawing takes on a life of its own, and you have to let it do that. Otherwise, it's just going to be an instant frustration. Because you're never going to get it perfectly right. If you do want to get it perfectly right, well then you could take a photograph and print it on a computer, and it's going to look exactly like that person, right? There's different devices you can use, like a projector or a camera lucida, which is like an optical device where you're looking through and you can literally see like the projection onto the paper and to copy from. Okay, just as I get close to wrapping up here, I'm just going to turn a little bit of light back on. Now that I am coming back to look at this original, you know, I'm just going to get a few of these extra little stray hairs in here. Since I was pressing quite hard with my pencil, just so these kind of lines will fit, I'm also going to just darken them a bit. Now you could say to yourself, you know what, I like the clean version of this drawing rather than the messy version of the drawing, which would probably be the way that she would feel too, right? So again, that's a whole other question, is like, if you're drawing somebody's portrait, do you allow the messy lines to stay there, the messy stray hairs, or do you clean those up? You know, some people would say, oh, it's those stray hairs are really important. They give a level of authenticity. They make her seem, you know, less touched up, and it's more of a candid image. So that's a decision you make for yourself. Like how, you know, after I've done those lines on my own drawing, part of me thinks, well, maybe I should have just left them out there. But maybe I just need to add more of them, right? So as I add a few more, it's like, oh, okay, maybe that initial panic I felt when I started putting them in there starts to die away, and then I start feeling a little bit better about it. Okay, so I think I'm going to leave that image there, and I'm going to see if I can find Heidi's photo on my old iPad here. I don't even know if I have Instagram installed on this old iPad. I really wish I could show it full screen. I'm just, because I don't have it. I guess I could log into. Let me see. How? It looks like, okay, so slowly coming online here. Okay. trying to use older. Well, I can't seem to. Amy, if you say you have it there?
I can get it.
Because this old iPad, I can't seem to see my notifications. Okay, well, the question was maybe just while that's happening, Obama. If I could find Obama here.
Picture of hair. Here are these photos.
Can you send it to me,
Oh,
please?
yes, sorry, I wasn't sure.
Just 'cause otherwise it's a tiny little thing on the screen. Where I thought there was a photo of Obama in here. I was gonna go up to the top. Okay. Or email or something.
It's just loading. It's being sent to you.
Okay, because I don't know even if I can receive texts on here. What would be okay, so let's go to this image here. While that's coming through, I'll just so if I was to try to draw a quick version of Obama here. So I'm going to create my little grid, right? And then let's start with the shape of the face. And he's got a pretty narrow face, right? So this works, really. Often we might be wanting to kind of widen the face, but he's got a fairly narrow shaped face. You can really see kind of towards his jaw and chin. Okay. Eyes, nose, mouth. I hear my mom saying it was really hard to do. Well, I guess it's all doing what the drawing we just did, or any of this hair. It does seem really hard, especially if you're really trying to copy with what I was doing word for word. The more that you sort of allow yourself to kind of play, it's going to stutter again. So we're looking really kind of, we want to just try to describe all of these little pieces of hair. Now, when we're doing kind of like military cuts, the point is not to draw every single little piece of hair. In fact, you may want to kind of draw a few, like what I like to do is draw in this sort of way where I'm kind of moving around back and forth, adding some hairs here and here. And, his hair might actually have a little bit more of kind of a curl or waves in it. So rather than just drawing straight lines, it's just adding a little bit of a wave to them. And there's going to be certain places, like right in here, where it's just really dark. All right, so I can kind of just cheat a little bit by trying to get a little bit darker in some of these areas. And he's got just gray coming in on the sides here. And then we want to try to soften up this so it's not just a round shape, but we can see these little kind of points. sticking out on the edges. All right, so the lines kind of closest, you know, where we could see the whole root of the hair, we're adding these kind of little waves to it. Right, and so on. You can see my hand is got pencil lines on it, and it's appearing on the face itself. If I was encountering a situation like that was really driving me nuts, then one thing I can do is just take a piece of paper and put it kind of upside down or whatever, if it's blank, right? And then rest my hand on it so that rather than my hand brushing all over the drawing, right, it's just going to, and then whenever I want to move it, I just pick up the piece of paper and draw it again. And that's one way of kind of avoiding all those really, these marks. I guess it doesn't show up that well, but in reality, I've got pencil marks all over the counter too. So I could spend more time on this, but I think you get the idea. Let me see. Let me find this photo really quickly, which I think is fantastic. I think it's really inspiring to see the work that other people in the class are doing, because it just shows, oh, where, I think we work best when we're inspired by other people who are working around us. It can feel a little bit intimidating sometimes, but okay. So how's that going to show up here? So check this cool image out. This is by Heidi, who's been following along with us. So this is an ear that she drew last class. It's just absolutely fabulous, right? So we start with that kind of avocado shape, right? And then we have the interior, so we outline this helix kind of shape, and then we have this Y form inside, right? So this is really great because, and I also really like the way that she's added some shading to it, especially the earlobe, which we didn't really go into, because the source images we were looking at didn't have too much detail. So, you know, I don't know. This almost looks like my ear. I don't know if this is, oh yeah, or Jason's ear, but it looks a lot like my own ear. You can see kind of that sideburn. So, and then this is a drawing she just sent of hair that she did. Isn't that fabulous? Look at that. So, you know, I love the layering of the shadow. You see how like these shadows tell us that this big piece of hair is on top of this, and that this hair is on top of this, and that this is on top of this. So all those darker areas help create volume and make this hair look like it's full and lush, right? So, and then we have the highlights are hitting the areas of the hair that are brighter, right? Fabulous. That's a really great drawing. Good job. Way to go, Heidi. So, I think, or would you be up for me sharing your drawing there, Mom? You're working away?
No.
No, you don't want to share it? Okay. Even though she does amazing stuff, but.
Yeah, I can't.
Well, it could be instructive for other people to see, right? Okay, give me.
I don't know. I just can't seem to get the groove.
What are you talking about? This looks fabulous. Okay, so here's my mom's drawing here. Look at that. Here, I'm just going to turn this down a bit. Just a little more. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't see what the problem is here. I think. So what I would say, and this is a common thing, is just going a little bit darker, right? So just take it, which is feels a little scary to use your pencil and to add those dark shadows. Like you've got some of these on the bottom part of the hair, right? But it's in some of these areas up higher where if we get a little bit darker, all of a sudden it's going to pop, because that the darkness is what creates the contrast and the volume. So just having like, you know, so if we were to, let's say, go into some of these areas and just start darkening, and not even all of them, like let's say this is one big group, but then let's say we darken this in here, right? And we decide to darken this one, right? All of a sudden, you just start creating a little bit more randomness in here. So you've got, I mean, the structure of the drawing is perfect. It's just now going in and kind of adding a little bit more darkness in some of those. But these are fantastic. You should see all the other drawings my mom did, which I'm not going to show because she'll be upset. But oh, and I just lost power on one of the cameras here, so I'm just going to tilt this up that way. Is that enough? And let's bring this here. Okay. So thank you once again for tuning in to another one of these episodes. On Tuesday, I'm trying to remember, I've posted links to all of the upcoming, I think the next 6 YouTube videos. I should be there now. So I've posted links to the next, I think, 6 YouTube videos. So you could go, you're watching this on YouTube, likely, right? I think. I don't know how else you'd be watching. But then so you can go and click on the reminder button on each of those videos, and that will give you, it'll help remind you that those videos are coming up in 2 hours or 4 hours, depending on your notification settings in YouTube. But you can also click like and subscribe to my channel so that you can get notified of those videos, as well as there's links to my Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and everything in the comment section below. So you could, if you like my Facebook page, then you'll also see when all these videos are being posted as well. I'm planning on making about 40 in total of these drawing things, going all the way till October. So every Tuesday and Thursday, same time, same place, no matter where you are in the world. If you get into the routine, you'll be a master artist by the end of this, right? So, because I want to finish doing the portraiture, and then I want to show how to draw some landscapes. I want to do a whole landscape drawing class.
He had one before the ear.
Oh, she had another one before the ear.
Don't have that?
I don't have it, and since I'm losing power on all of the cameras and everything, I think next week I'll do a search for you, Heidi, and I'll find another picture. But you should be very proud of what you've done so far. So I'm sure it's another fantastic drawing, and I'm sure everybody else has been doing great stuff. You know, just like my mom is not so happy with the drawing she did, I'm sure it's infinitely better than anybody else who's never tried drawing hair before, right? So it might not feel like you're doing the greatest artwork imaginable or that you've come a long way, but I guarantee you it's one of those things that you're slowly building more and more and more skill, and each time you do a drawing you're not so happy with, all of that knowledge that you're gaining. I think, and just think about it in your own life, that we learn better from our mistakes than we do from our successes, right? If you're like some superstar athlete and you're always winning medals and stuff, it's when you break your leg and then you have to start training again and go back, that's when you really start learning, right? Because if something comes natural to you, then you're not really conscious of what you're doing. It's when you're kind of really working and struggling is when you're really exercising your muscles, and especially if you try to teach somebody this stuff, that's when you really notice you actually know something, which is one of the reasons why I like teaching, because I feel like, oh, I actually do know a few things. So anyway, we will see you on Tuesday of next week. That gives you a good weekend to practice some of the things we've been talking about, and finding some photographs of other people's hair. You could try just drawing your own hair. So we've been, because I think next class is, I think we're drawing our self-portrait. I think we're doing the full self-portrait, if I recall. So if you just sit down and try drawing, you know, just like I did here with Obama or those other 4 ones, not focusing on the face itself, but the hair and the shape of the hair, when it comes to drawing your portrait, it's going to be so much easier because you're already going to have that little muscle memory on how you draw your hair. Okay, so having said that, have a good rest of your weekend, and we'll see you on Tuesday. Bye-bye, everybody.